boys and girls. And, old habits are hard to break. I said we were going to drop boys and girls, but it's not the end of 2023 yet. So, the grumpy old man broadcasting live from WDWL TV on Grumpy Vulture Boulevard gets to say boys and girls once more. But we're going to change it to friends because we're all friends. And the long-awaited item has arrived. The color-changing microphone. Look at this. Is that not cool? It changes colors. Red, green, blue. That is neat. I kind of like that. It took him a while to find it. As a matter of fact, he had found it 2 weeks ago. But he forgot that it was this mic. The one that he thought was this one did not have this type of finish. It was just basically, we can't see it, but he thought it was the microphone that he had that had just silver screen without this outer trim. And he kept looking and kept looking and kept looking, and finally he decided plug it in. And he plugged it in, and it started to change color, and he was like, holy shit, I've had this on the desk for 2 weeks. But it arrived in time. And the surprising thing is, it's another one of these day and a half priority mail from Burbank. Because he's got a winter condo out somewhere in the area of Burbank. He's on the outskirts, and when the weather gets nasty here in Cleveland, he goes out there, and in the spare bedroom, his son uses it to do a lot of post-production work. Take your work home with you type of kid. And here the microphone was in that room all along. And after we plugged it in and it lit up and started changing colors, he remembered. It was like the old forehead slap, because he had seen his son using it. because his son has a couple of YouTube channels, and he's got one that he kind of goofs around on, and he was trying this microphone out. Well, after a while, he was like, I don't need this one anymore, because doing the professional production work that he does out in Burbank, his son gets loads of microphones to test for his studio. And he tries some of them out at home, and he tries some of them out at the studio. Matter of fact, he told me that within the next couple of months, we said 4 to 6 months, he's going to go through microphones that he's got at home and at the studio, and the ones that they don't want, he's going to email me pictures and give me a brief description of each microphone. And if I want it, he'll send it to me. It's not that I need a shitload of microphones, but I think it's kind of neat to change up, just to see what the difference is in performance. And this one has got an echo on it, like my other one, but no matter how I adjust it, I don't think the echo's working right, because I've got the echo all the way up, and it don't seem to be doing as much echoing as the black microphone. I don't know, maybe once I'm done recording, when I play it back, it'll be echoing so to the point you can't understand it. But right now, it doesn't sound like much. But for free, plus it came in this really nice shock mount. And I mean, you can see how a shock mount absorbs, so that if you smack the microphone, it doesn't do like that. Yeah, it come with this whole assembly. I think it's kind of cool. Of course, it's shining in my eyes, but Grumpy ain't going to bitch about it. I think it's neat. Let me see if I can get it in front of the camera a little better. Now watch it stay. I don't know why it's staying blue. All right, there we go. Changing to red. Then to green. Is that not cool? All right, let's get it back in the mount here. I was going to say, I know it fits in there. I had it in there. All right. This is a pre New Year's Eve I will be back. But right now, I'm in beg mode because I need 2 more subscribers. 2 more. 2 more. I'm still at 28. I was kind of hoping when I checked before that it was at least at 29. Just 2 more. That would make Grumpy and the Grumpy Vulture, who is going to make an appearance later on, happy. That's all we want. 2 more. Get to 30 before the end of 2023. Pardon me, a little dry mouth. I was going to attempt a broadcast from Studio A earlier, but I'm having a little problem with the stereo microphones. Even though I got the Y connector, for some reason I'm not getting equal sound out of both. And no matter how I set the adjustment, because there's adjustments on each microphone, one is not quite as loud as the other. And they're supposed to be equal because they're identical. So I don't know if it's in the cable. I'm going to mess with it tomorrow. So we will have a little broadcast from Studio A. Plus, I got to go in there and knock some of the dust off the equipment. Make sure that both of my sound effects tablets are charged up. I decided that over here in Studio B, I am going to use a limited amount of sound effects. And I mean, not like we toy around over in Studio A, but mainly intro and outro and maybe something in between. But it's not going to be. That's the play around, be an idiot studio. This one is supposed to be, well, we'll say semi-serious. A grumpy old man can never get, you know. Like I say, I'm still trying to live my original dream of being a disc jockey. And it's sad that it didn't happen. Although working at the one radio station for, as a matter of fact, I found a piece of paperwork. I did 4 Fridays at this radio station in downtown Cleveland. And it was 4 Friday nights, 12 to 6. And then I did 8 nights at the TV station booth announcing. And that basically fulfilled my requirement. See, this is what really pissed us all off. Because we had fulfilled all the requirements to get our broadcast certificates, even though we were at the 9-month period out of the 12. But in that last 3 months, it was just basically a lot of book work. All of our on-air requirements had been met. The only other thing that we weren't able to do was basically just before graduation, we were to make our demo tapes. Yeah, tapes. Reel to reel, you sent, you actually sent tape. Our not so much what you would call interview. Oh, maybe. But they were our demo tapes. And we were to do 3 different types. Like one for a rock station, and one for a country western station, and then one for like a contemporary. And believe me, I sat there today thinking I was never into country western music. And it would be my luck. I made a demo tape for a country western and got the job. And another thing, we had to come up with catchy names. Like we had one disc jockey here in Cleveland. He called himself the Duker. He was the Duker. And there were so many. I can't remember them all. I remember the Duker for some reason. His name was Duke something. Smith, the Duker. And I had written down several studio names, and I can't find the list. And for the life of me, I can't remember what my studio names were. Because very few disc jockeys like today go by their real name. They all had studio names, radio names, And for the life of me, I racked my brain today, which is probably about this big, but I could not think of the names of the disc jockeys. There was like Marvelous Marvin, and his name wasn't even Marvin. Why the hell he called himself? But it, kind of sounded catchy on the radio. You're live with Marvelous Marvin on, KTXZ 1240 on the AM dial. And that's what they wanted you to, the more you could pump yourself up, the better your demo tapes were, the better chance that because they didn't want some deadpan going, this is Fred Fabeats, and, I'm here at KMOX 1390 on the dial. you know, especially back in the 70s. You know, they wanted to, one was Wild Man. I'm trying to think what he called it. Wild Man something. You got Wild Man. Everybody had a kind of a catch name. And I can't remember what some of my demo tape radio names were. Well, I can't. I shouldn't say demo tape because we never made them. We never got the chance. But I can't, for the life of me. I gotta, I still have. I got lucked out, and I found that one piece of paperwork today to look through some of the old files and see what my radio names were going to be. Yeah, I was. I think for the country western station, I called myself Don Dallas. It'd been my luck, I'd have been, in Amarillo. You got Don Dallas on the dial. Yeah. One of them was Don Dallas. That was one of my country. We had to have 3 or 4, whichever one was catchy enough. But yeah, Don Dallas. Don Dallas on KTXY 1490 on the dial. Kind of stupid sounding, but that's the way, 60s and 70s radio was. The crazier the disc jockey, the more attention he got. But, I also had to remember that since Don Dallas was the country western, I had to try to come up with some kind of western, Yo, this is Don Dallas, 1490 KX, MG radio. Crazy. That's the way it was back in the day. Crazy. You don't find it, although I don't listen to all the different stations, so I don't know, maybe there's still some crazy, I remember we had one disc jockey, all he played was polkas. All, for 4 hours. And he was a friend of Frank Yankovic, so he'd get Frank Yankovic up in the studio every now and then, and Frank would be on his accordion, But that's the way it was back in the day. We had the polka station. I remember there was he didn't play polkas. I had one disc jockey, all he did was polkas. There was another disc jockey, all he did was like Bach and Beethoven and, that kind of music. But you had to have what they call a hook, Your style was your hook. The more I think about it, I think that Don Dallas was cool. Don Dallas, yo, spinning them platters on the dial. KMOG 1320 on your radio dial. That's the kind of shit we did. And you never use, you're just plain talking voice. You had to put a lot of energy in it. because that's what they wanted. The more energetic, the better chance you had of landing a job. And then if you landed the job, you better stay that energetic. Although, had I landed a job, believe me, I'd have been energetic just to be thankful for getting one. Because I remember, some of we had disc jockeys that came in to visit every now and then and kind of tell us how they got their start. And the one guy, he was at it was a country western religious station out somewhere in Arkansas, and the station was like 300-watt station, which maybe broadcasted across the street. It was in a town that had one traffic light. But I mean, if you wanted the jobs, that's where you went. A lot of the disc jockeys back then. Although there were more radio stations because they were small. Like a lot of areas had a radio station that covered maybe 3 towns, and the towns maybe had 500 people each. So the station transmitters didn't have a lot of output. And that's where you'd end up. One disc jockey we had come and visit us said, literally, the station was surrounded by cornfield. There was a building and a tower and a dirt road leading in, and that's where the transmitter was. That's where the station was. Matter of fact, he said, when he went out for the interview, he got lost 2 or 3 days. He drove right past it because it was a dirt road in the middle of a cornfield. And he said, the sign was about the size of a license plate, KLMJ radio with an arrow. Well, that's the way it was back in the day. Not like today, you got radio stations cranking out 50,000 watts or better. Not back then. So that's what this is. This is my foray into broadcasting. Gives me a feel of what it might have been. Although there's no way I would have ever been like, a Lanigan or, a Mike Ranieri like back in the day. And no way like Howard Stern, Of course, that type of radio was unheard of back in, the 70s. Trying to think, we had a real controversial disc jockey, Don Imus. Don Imus was here in Cleveland, and a lot of controversy when he was here. Matter of fact, anywhere he went, there was, but everybody made the circuit. I can't remember how long Imus was here. I don't think he was here long because, like I said, there was a lot of controversy. I'll have to check. I'll go online tomorrow and check. Get some of the disc jockeys, like say back when I was in high school, Mike Ranieri, good old WIXY 1260. I remember the slogan, Wixie 1260 Super Radio. I think I've got some cuts. I think I found some one day. Some commercial cuts from Wixie. I'll have to play them. I'll probably get thrown off of YouTube, but that's the way it was. But I've been on for half an hour. But please, 2 more subscribers. When I come on later on, I'd like to see 2 more subscribers. I'd like to hit the big 30 before midnight. And with that, I'm going to sign off. And later on, the Grumpy Vulture is going to make an appearance. He promised he would come out of his cage for New Year's Eve. So we'll see you later on, boys and girls. Take care. I know I got to use friends. I got to remember friends, not boys and girls. All right, friends. I'll be back. I know some people are taking that as a threat, but I'll be back. We're gonna do a New Year's Eve show. All right. Bye-bye.